Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of Eternal Backlog. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm here with Shady. How's it going, buddy? We've both been on vacation-isk. You've done a tourist version of your own place, but how's it been going?
I had people come visit me. I still got a bit of a tan, nevertheless, you know, in sunny old Vegas.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you did a spot of the, can we say what it is without the algorithm dropping us? It's something involving a slot machine, and then we don't want to obviously trick Susan up and then get angry with us. So
no.
You did all right with that as well, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not a massive gambler, but obviously when family's in town, I'll throw a couple of dollars into the slot machines. And first night, 170 on the old video poker. You know, the old school poker machines. I've got an addiction to those. 170 bucks. A few days later, went back in. Got tired of hovering around people's shoulders. I threw a 20 in. I think I won another 80 something, so I was pretty happy with that. Yeah. Managed to get a straight flush.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, four times.
4 times, sweet.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty decent. Remember, know your limits. But
I would edit the phone number in right about now. But I feel like we'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
Talk to Frank.
So, did you get up to anything else?
No, just had family come into Vegas, so did the whole touristy thing. Sat on a couple of rooftop bars, drinking $20 cocktails under scorching hot 30-something degree sun. Mm-hmm. It was nice. It flew by, you know, the sort of 7, 8, 9 days that they were here. A couple of pool parties, got wet, got wild, got burnt.
Right, okay.
And healed again. That's it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then, And
you went to France, didn't you?
Did indeed, yes. And got to see a little bit of Paris and taste the delicatessen. Oh my God. The amount of wine and cheese I ate, I'm surprised we cannot see a difference between episode 3 and 4 in terms of what's happening below the chin here, because I went to town. One day I had 5 bottles of wine in a single day before 8 o'clock in the evening. I ate probably my body weight in baguette. And really, I mean, the French bakeries over there is absolutely fantastic. The people were fine as well, but it's more expensive than London, more expensive than Central London easily.
It's become
and
more
you have
expensive
to pay a tourist
now.
tax. Yeah.
So last time I went to France, they were doing the whole was it pension or petrol protests, and they smashed up the entire Champs-Élysées. Was that still
the yellow vest protests?
Yeah, yellow or orange, one of them. But everything had spray paint on. Was that the case with you? Have they recovered?
No,
did they survive?
It was very peaceful there.
That's surprising for France. That.
Well, it is. Maybe they've got Macron fatigue. I don't know.
They've had enough of the old "Vive la Révolution."
Well, I think what it is that it was a little cold over there for Paris temperatures. It was warmer at home here in the UK than it was in France by 2 degrees. I mean, work that out. I can't fathom it, but that's what happened over there. So
when you drink enough wine, everything's the same temp.
Well, yeah. I mean, that helped a lot, especially with the riverboat cruise in the evening, where the wind was blowing a gale, and you kind of needed all of that extra body warmth. What do they call it? A blanket. You put a blanket on when you have a couple of drinks. But France was pretty good. Didn't manage to do everything that I wanted to do, to be honest with you. Little do I know that they close a lot of things on a Monday and Tuesday. So I thought, they'll be open on Monday or Tuesday. No, they're open on Sunday instead. And Monday and Tuesday is their days that they like to close things. So if anyone's planning a trip to France, the Louvre is shut on Tuesday. So if you want to go and see some art, maybe don't pick Tuesday, and do a bit of pre-research before you go to France. Because I was like, I don't want an itinerary. We'll rock up there and do what we do. And then ultimately a bit of prep does help.
So does this come down to our British naivety, where we just assume that everyone works Monday to Friday and that's it?
100%. Like we assume everyone speaks English, that type of thing.
You walk into a shop and say "le cheese."
I literally said, it was bonjour and merci.
Oh God, you butchered mercy, didn't you? Merci.
I was merci. Yeah, but I don't want to phlegm everywhere.
You've got to, well, that's the art, you see. You've got to
be the scouse.
You've got to say without spitting. Merci.
Merci. Well, I'm managing it so far. But
Yeah,
you know,
well, I'll hear this back in post as I edit the podcast, and we'll see how well that picks up.
well, we'll pick up to see. You know, let's do the merci and see if it breaks through the barrier of an N95 mask.
I can't work out if you say merci or Percy.
Merci.
Percy. Merci,
It
Percy.
was good. It was good. Oh, I managed to obviously went into the game shops there. Went into a couple of them. Picked up a couple of 3DS games.
There you go. Was that
So,
the old Monoprix?
So we went in Monoprix. That was our restaurant. Monoprix was our restaurant, mate. It was we had one meal was first day that we went there, and the rest it was Monoprix, raiding that wine area in Monoprix and raiding the cheese and the bread aisle pretty much in the hotel room in the evening, proper slumming it. And yeah.
I don't know what it is. When you say raiding the cheese, I just picture that film 28 Days Later where everyone's just, breaking into shops looking for any scraps of food.
Oh, speaking of 28 days later, I'll get onto that. I want to give you a little quick hot take. I know we obviously are a video game podcast, but people cross over and do like movies too.
Yeah. I just want to add my shaving tip for the week as well. Since
oh,
that's
right, yes.
Yeah, well, as you noticed, I did shave last night, so the glowing is in full effect. Got the
His skin looks nice and tight.
Yeah, taut, and the Nivea cream's working for sure. So yeah, that's there. I've concluded the
Are we on
conversation
the
from. Well, no, we're on the tobacco still. The tobacco's working wonders. The tobacco's working wonders. And if you follow our X or Threads account, I'll throw up a picture of tobacco with an Amazon link. It's not an affiliate link, maybe one day, but
why not?
If you want,
Shady is the endorser of tobacco.
It's an option.
For shaving fun.
You want to look like us, sound like us, now you can shave like us. So
I don't think anyone does, to be honest with you.
So stay tuned to the
Probably
socials.
look at it and go, well, these guys have definitely not got enough sleep. My God.
Yeah, but my God,
too much
my God, do they
games
shave well?
And spending too much time looking at code and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it popped into that video game store there. I can't remember what it's called. It's like JoyCon Video or something like that. And grabbed a couple of 3DS games, and also added the original remastered version of Call of Duty 4 that came out on Xbox One to the list. And obviously, it's in the cover art has got a little bit of French literacy on it, so it's a bit of a unique one. I'm not quite sure CEX will accept it, but you never know.
I thought you were going to say that the cover had cigarette holes in it, because every time I've bought a second-hand game, there's always cigarette burns on the cover, where the plastic's melted.
I don't think CEX minds, because unbelievably, you saw it, that nicotined GameCube. There was 100, 200 a day smoker who had a GameCube and literally traded it into CEX. They didn't care. They sold this thing, and literally it is an awful example of quality testing over at CEX. Not only did they get rid of the hip replacement from a PS5 Slim, where you have to buy the disc attachment separate if you buy a PS5 Slim.
Oh my God.
Just like they were separating items from the original Wii back in the day, they are selling fully 110% fortified with vitamin carbon or whatever. Nicotine based.
It's definitely got the aroma of 200 Rothmans.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, it's interesting stories you get out of CEX. But yeah, France was good, and I'd like to be able to. I wish I had an extra day over there, but that wraps it up. I'm not quite sure when I'm leaving the country. It was the first time I left the UK in about 6 years. So hopefully it's not as long next time around. That is what it is. Anyway, we need to get on with the episode. We need to make some time up here, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, we've got our question of the week results. We asked you on the last episode, what video game first blew your mind? Let's rush straight through these. Hunter BD10B says Skyrim. Very, very good example there. We've still not done that one and completed it. We've got LRD MTNS. Very interesting usernames, by the way, some of these. They've said a legacy modded Minecraft or the release of Warframe. And interesting. Warframe kind of surprised me a bit when that first came out. We've also got user VO6PY8TV3C who says Knights of the Old Republic. Where are these real news in it? What's going on? We're living in this. The internet is fake. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, we've also got XOKATSHXO who's frequents on our Instagram, and they said Mario Kart. I'm sorry I can't read any of your usernames out properly, but you're not making it easy. So that is our viewer question of the results from the previous week. We've also got our DPAB results, but I forgot to put them in. So we're going to have to perhaps do a little follow-up on that. Completely forgot what those DPAB results were looking like. I think it was either a trade-off between Sega and Sony.
The last time I checked,
one or the other.
Sony, I think, were edging.
Just edging it, yeah.
Yeah, but I haven't checked all the platforms, but it looked like it was a Sony win. I may be wrong.
Yeah. So maybe we'll pop that up as a little catch up for next week. That was a honest forget there as part of the.
You've been on the whiskey again, haven't you?
Due diligence. No, we're on the red wine this evening. Anyway, what else? We've got our question of the. The last thing that we want to cover on this is the fact that if you've been following us on Instagram, we do get exclusive content. We've had the delivery of the Xbox Crystal. Yes. So I've now got the original Xbox, and hopefully the game turns up. The idea being with that literally I'm trying to build a game collection up via charity shops only. And hopefully I can find some interesting stuff. And I thought I might take my camera about with me because it might be interesting. So I'm not promising any content on this, but if something happens that's pretty cool, maybe something will appear on shorts. It definitely won't be a long form piece, but it might appear on shorts. And our recommended buys of the week and our featured games are starting to appear in longer form on our YouTube channel. So if that's of interest, then get into that. Right, we can get into a bit more into the podcast now. We got our question of the week for you this week, and it's very simple. We've had a stellar start to this year. Interesting, perhaps, the smaller developers underpinning, holding the weight for the industry, perhaps, in some places. We want to know which game that's released this year is already your hottest game in your backlog to get round to. Has to have released in 2024. Give your answers and we'll share them on the next episode. And we'll also share ours on the next episode. We don't want to go into that right now. But yes, it's going to be some interesting selections on there. And next episode, I think you'll be slightly surprised by what my answer would be, but we'll save that for another time. And then our poll of the week, out of these forgotten racing franchises, which would you love most to see a new game announced? You'll see that start to populate a day or so after the episode has been published, or straight away if you are listening on Spotify. So there's a few choices on there. I think we're slightly limited by our choice number, so I won't read them out now, but there is a slight limit, so we might have to thin them out slightly. But there's some great ones on there, and I'd love to see some. So, are you ready for the news?
Let's do it.
Let's get on to the news. We've got to start off with Starfield.
Yep.
And it's the biggest story this week, in my particular opinion. Shady, I don't know if you wanted to run us through, especially, I don't know if you want to talk about the technical specs of this first, or the features, but if you want to run us through what are the key details here.
Yeah, well, I'm actually really surprised with what they announced, because a year ago when this damn game launched, it sounded like they couldn't do any of this, or they'd missed the boat because they had to get this thing out the door. I don't know what's changed inside Bethesda exactly, but not only did they announce a huge update coming before the Shattered Space DLC, but we've got a lot of delivery on some of those things that people were just really annoyed with, mainly being the improved surface maps. So when you go to the map screen, when you're in a town or a planet or something, you just get this sort of blue dot matrix looking landscape, if that makes sense, with a bit of elevation. Well, no, they've actually gone ahead and given us a rich 3D, if you've ever played I think the best way to describe it, if you've ever played a modern Far Cry game, you go to that map screen and it's like an isometric 3D map, I don't know if you can zoom into it just yet from the video that I saw, but it looks miles better than what was there.
Yeah.
Actually gives you a sense of placement in the world.
Well, the one place where you would genuinely get lost is Jemison. And the fact that they've done that is huge, because the amount of, I think I must have wasted several hours getting lost there.
Yeah.
Some places are a lot easier to navigate, but that place is a maze.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one of the new features also is adding location tags. So when you're walking around these particular, areas and planets, you now see these little black circular tags pop up on your screen saying, oh, this is a bar. Oh, there's a weapon shop over here. There was, I forget which location it was. There was a video in the update that Starfield or Bethesda showed where one location had a bit too many on screen. I hope you can kind of limit what you see. So if you don't want to see bars and restaurants, but you do want to see weapon dealers, that's an option. But besides that, you've also got some new gameplay options as well. So if you wanted to kind of customize your difficulty, let's say, for example, you wanted the space battles a little bit easier, but you wanted the gun or hand-to-hand combat a little bit more difficult, you can actually customize and finite those options now, in addition to extreme difficulty, which wasn't there before. And I think you'll like this as well, Nomad, because you had a bit of trouble with dogfights in space, didn't you? There was a particular
Was this the last Crimson? What was it? Crimson? What? I can't even remember the thing. Crimson. What was it? Crimson something.
Crimson Pirates? No, Crimson Fleet.
Crimson Fleet. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the last Crimson Fleet mission after you've stolen the ship stuff.
Yeah. No, I remember.
Something odd happening there on my particular build of my ship, and I've tried it on multiple ships. I just cannot get past that. So hopefully that adjusts it. I just want to complete that mission.
Yeah.
Right?
I had an issue with one mission in particular. I forgot the name of it, but I could not complete it for the longest time. Every time I'd go into battle, I'd get thrashed by these 3 ships, to the point where I have to wait till near the end game, go back, redo my ship, just kind of bolster everything up, increase my defenses, and then get my pilot's license, I think, to like level B or C or something, so I can actually get some of those better upgrades. It took me forever to do, but I managed to do it. So I think this will save and help people with a lot of that frustration.
I think it's great. I mean, I love the ground combat, and I quite happily crank the difficulty up on that as well.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll add some achievements to that as well. In addition to decorating and customizing your ship externally, you can also, and there's going to be some people creaming right now, decorate your ship's internals. Not only can you decorate your ship's internals, but you can buy an empty ship with no internals, leaving it to your decorate to your heart's
Get me
content.
going, baby.
Now, this is not something I am interested in at all. I have no interest in this.
It makes more sense than doing it in the outpost, right?
I suppose.
At least in the ship, you're there regularly.
I suppose, as long as it doesn't increase loading time with all the crap that you end up putting in there.
I bet someone's
going to drop
something.
1 million potatoes in the back of the spaceship.
And then the game,
and you're going to just float. The potatoes will start clipping through the walls of the spaceship, and you'll see a fleet of potatoes behind you. I digress. There's a couple of quality of life improvements, adding tabs to container menus just to make it easy to kind of navigate your inventory. Also having the ability to change your traits and appearance after entering the Unity. So if you feel like you want to change the kind of backstory and some of those traits of your character, you can now do so, which Bethesda tend to always release or always add into their games after launch as well.
I think one of them has automatically gave you, do you know where's the place, Neon?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of those traits, if you selected the right class, you could pretty much get access to the
Neon straight away.
Yeah.
Oh,
like all of the, the nice apartments and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, interesting. Also some camera toggle settings for dialogue options. So if you play the game or prefer to play the game in third person, and you talk to an NPC, rather than the camera switching to first person so you can conduct that conversation, it'll actually stay in third person now. For me, that's a weird option to have, but I guess it's annoying having the camera switch. Yeah. So it's there if you want it. But most importantly, and the one that I'm excited about the most, is the display settings options on Xbox Series X. And that is, we have the ability to prioritize between performance or quality modes, but not just that. We're actually able to kind of go 40 FPS as well if you've got a variable refresh rate TV. Now, the reason that's particularly interesting, because a lot of PlayStation titles have started doing this as well. You've got Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man in particular, where it's like, I don't want to lose all the visual fidelity by going into performance mode just to hit 60 FPS, but at the same time, staying in quality mode at 30 FPS just feels a bit too slow. They tend to have this middle option where you can go into 40 FPS mode, just using a little bit more of that chip's headroom, but still retaining some of those visual elements. And I think when Shattered Space DLC comes out, that's probably the option I'm going to try, because I'll be honest with you, playing Spider-Man, a really fast-paced game, in 40 FPS didn't feel half bad. It's actually surprising how much of a difference the extra 10 FPS made. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to see how it feels. And then if it works out, it works out. If not, I'll switch over to 60, because I really hated Starfield in 30, if I'm honest. It did not feel good. Did not feel good whatsoever.
It felt much more nicer playing it on the Series S. Because I think it was capped, right? You didn't really have an option to...
It's capped, but it's also... this. I think the fidelity settings are also dialed down in the background somewhere as well. So
yeah.
But that's not all. We've got an uncapped frame rate option as well now. So if you've got a VR display also, and you're running at 120 hertz on Xbox Series X like I am, then we've got the ability to just let the game go nuts. And the reason why that's interesting is because older Bethesda titles on the Creation Engine, such as Fallout 4, which has been a very big topic of conversation lately, they are unable to go past 60. Because then what happens is the game clock speeds up and all the NPCs start zooming around screen, objects start... It's some weird thing happens where they just didn't foresee that in the future we'd ever get past 60 on console. So, but they've clearly learned their lesson. Starfield's making some headway with that. And I'm actually really looking forward to this patch. And it gets me... I think what this does is it builds hype before Shattered Space is announced, which we all know is going to be at this Summer Game Fest.
Oh, 100%. It has... This is the type of... I know they've done some updates in the past, and you look at it on the sheet, and you're like, you're not going to tempt me back here. I think that, like you said, the main thing was that gameplay slider for the difficulty, just to get over that. Because I really want to get my character... I'm in this really weird state of limbo where I've completed the game. I'm on New Game Plus, but I can't complete it a second time, which I didn't complete all the side missions, because I got down to the last side missions on both, decided to cash in the main story like an idiot, and then have to go back through it again, including planting those stupid research things in the ground for that Jemison scientist. I'd do all of that rubbish again. And then on the second replay, it cut out the mission where you aboard that ship where the guy's got like trinkets from all across the galaxy, including some some wild animals in the basement of the ship.
I think I vaguely remember. Yeah,
he holds one of the things. At this point, I've lost it from my memory. Right?
Is it one of the Unity pieces?
Yeah, he holds one of the Unity pieces. He was in the market. He's like one of these exotic collectors type of thing. On the replay of New Game Plus, I just didn't seem to have ever touched that mission. So I don't know whether I've selected like an express version of the second replay, but...
Or you made some different dialogue choices this round and you've annoyed someone who didn't point you in that direction. It's possible.
Possibly. Yeah. Definitely annoyed Sarah on the second playthrough, but she don't even want to speak to me.
I was actually very surprised at what New Game Plus became in Starfield, because before the game came out and everyone kept talking about, oh no, you're going to want to skip through the first playthrough and go straight to New Game Plus. I never pictured what that looked like. I kept saying, well, typically New Game Plus is just retaining your weapons, your skill points, and just playing on a harder difficulty.
Yeah.
But and I won't spoil it for anyone, but what they did with that is super interesting, especially, you've got people that have done it sort of, I think one guy did it 33 times, and on the 33rd playthrough, something really interesting happens. And if you want to skip that and just watch the YouTube video, there is a YouTube video out there.
Yeah, I know what happens, yeah.
Yeah, but I opted to go for the single playthrough only, got all my achievements on the first game, then went through the Unity and let what happened. Yeah. And I think I've left my character in a good space to pick up the DLC and all of those new mission content pieces coming.
I need to go back and just make those final changes before that comes out.
Let me just say, getting your character to level 100 is not fun.
I can't remember. I think I'm at 70 something.
Oh, the farming trick that you have to use to get that is so annoying. It took me, I think, 2 weeks almost to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not worth it.
I don't know.
I'll buy an East Asia soft game and get 1000 G for 69 pence.
That's true.
That is the thing about that. It's kind of cheapened the achievements a bit, but it is what it is. Don't think Microsoft's ever going to step in and control that. So you kind of got to take advantage.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah. Next up, we've looked at Microsoft in the past about, are they going to dip their toes into virtual reality, all of this stuff? Well, essentially, we can report from The Verge that Xbox are working on well, they're not working on a VR headset. Meta's working on a VR headset, and it's going to have some type of Xbox branding type of crossover Meta X Xbox edition, probably with a little bit of light green trim somewhere, and possibly bundled with an Xbox controller so you can play Game Pass on MetaQuest, which is an app now.
And some green software as well.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. I reckon it'd be white with the green trim. It might have an interesting aesthetical look to it.
I'm actually more intrigued by what they're trying to achieve, to be honest. For the longest time, I was one of the advocates saying, why the hell are Microsoft not jumping on board the VR thing and letting Sony have all the fun? And I guess they played the long game and they saw that, okay, well, VR died very quickly. And we can all see now that the PSVR 2 is having horrendous sales. They're opening up their SDK to PC along with their games. So that is going to come, I think, at some point this year. But I like the prospect of being able to play my Xbox games on a VR headset, because not only does it make it possible, but then we get the option of having developers port potential software titles that are on the PlayStation side or on the Steam side over to Xbox with minimal effort and minimal work on a platform that's already established. It's huge now. It's probably the biggest VR platform out there. So I'm all for it. As long as it's compatible with my Xbox, I can do what every other VR headset does. I was already thinking about getting a Meta Quest 3 anyway. And this just kind of makes that deal a little bit sweeter.
Oh, you've got to get it done, mate. We'll have so much fun.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, we will have so much fun.
One of these days I will.
But yeah, so on the surface, if you're looking for a fully fledged Microsoft dip their toes into this platform, I think this is more of a Spencer Bond vision of, the vision of play anywhere. And this just bolsters it. Similar to they did, I think they did a partnership with the Backbone guys for the Backbone controllers. Look, here's a Game Pass. We want not only to give you access to Game Pass on it, but we want to give you access to be able to mirror and stream directly off your console on mobile. Just more options to access that particular stuff. But it's I'm really keen to see aesthetically what it looks like. Just out of interest.
I think it will look like a Quest, to be honest. I think it will look. I think it will be the same Quest. Maybe, like you said, it will be bundled with another controller. It will come with a 3 months free Game Pass code, and that's about it.
Yeah, something like that. But either way, it was interesting to see. And then we had the Xbox talking about cross promotions or whatever. Xbox IGN Indie Showcase that happened earlier this week, and I gritted my teeth and tried to watch that back a second time. Trust me, once you get past the real cringe, which is rivaling Ubisoft at some of their at their most key moments over previous E3s, my goodness me, there is actually games in here. So I've got a couple of highlights. I don't know if any stood out to you. It might actually be the exact games as each other in terms of the highlights here.
I'm looking at your list, and there's a couple in there that kind of are on my list as well. I think the first one obviously is 33 Immortals. I'll be honest with you, when this was first announced, I think last year it was announced at Summer Game Fest.
Yeah.
It didn't appeal to me. I didn't really feel the need to kind of say, okay, I want to look more into this game. But after watching this show and them showing a bit more gameplay in action, I'm actually really intrigued. And all right, I know there's the joke of not having 32 other friends, but I don't think you really need to. There'll be public parties and lobbies and things like that.
Yeah, they confirmed open lobby.
Has to be.
Matchmaking.
But for example, if I were to jump into a party with you, then you and me jump into a random lobby with 31 other players, I think that's a great night right there.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And if you really want to go deep into that experience, and we've never really played around with this whole Discord thing. It's more of a PC game player's option, but a lot of people, get together in communities on Discord, and I can imagine you'll get an unbelievable experience there.
Yeah.
With those deeper knit communities. But yeah, it just felt like we talked about on a previous episode. We were like, why isn't something like Vampire Survivors online co-op? Now, this is a roguelike. It's not exactly like Vampire Survivors by any stretch of the imagination, but you get that flavor, and I think this is going to appeal to people that like Vampire Survivors. It's going to appeal to people that also like World of Warcraft. In its essence, it's obviously a bit more, simplified than it, but it's still got the theming that kind of feels like it could be set in a WoW world. I think this could be an Xbox moment right here. This could be an Xbox AA moment, or might be even a smaller than that in terms of indie developer. But it could be their moment where Helldivers had their, time in the sun. And if this game is as entertaining as what it potentially could look like on the tin, this could be a huge game, and 33 Immortals could end up being, that next thing where people are, just like, well, you might want to buy an Xbox for it. I don't know. Maybe not, but it seems to be these AA developers that seem to be doing this right now.
Adds to the value. It's the AA developers and the indie developers that are actually taking the risks that AAAs are not, simply because of the nature of the industry right now. I'm gonna name off a few more that caught my eye, and I see a couple on your list as well. So, typically, I've never been a big fan of the Commandos games, but I really like what they did with the whole sniper element of the Commandos Origins game that was unveiled. You're sort of standing across the map from someone and trying to snipe in a sort of isometric strategy type setting, but an actual sniper scope appears on screen that you can kind of manipulate. So that was a really unique take on that style of gameplay that I thought, even though I don't typically play those games, just wanted to kind of call out. Centrum, really love old school point and click adventures, and this one is right up my alley. I'll definitely be checking this one out. Lost Records, which is the new game from Don't Nod, Life is Strange. I love the retro aesthetic, the whole VCR 1995 timestamp thing that they got going on. I have to say, though, that Don't Nod are really filling the Telltale gap that they've left behind. And we all know that
they're no one's rivaling. Like, there's no one else in that space now, right?
Yeah, well, I know they mentioned Wolf Among Us 2 being developed, but there's been more layoffs since that announcement. So we really don't know where that studio stands at this point, or where that game stands at this point in time. But one thing I do want to call out that Don't Nod actually does way better than Telltale, and that is the music score. Every single Life is Strange game that they've released, there have been at least one or two tracks that I've ended up Shazamming onto my Spotify playlist, because there is something about, I don't know how they find these artists or where they find these songs, but it just fits the game to a T. And I still to this day listen to a couple. I think Life is Strange Before the Storm had one in particular, and it's still in my rotation till this day. So really looking forward to that. Jackbox Naughty Pack. I am so glad
about this.
So glad that Jackbox are finally leaning into the adult theme, and we've all done it. You get your Jackbox game set up, and everyone's got their phone.
It's never a vanilla session, is it?
It never is.
Or fibbage.
Everyone's got their phone connected, and everyone's rattling off dirty, filthy things. At least now we've got the platform to do it. Now,
I wonder what it's going to be.
It makes, well, if the other Jackbox packs could be that filthy, and if they're now doing an adult themed one, I can only imagine how bad it's going to get. I'm all for this day one. And this one's on your list, Sulfur. A really interesting, simple textured FPS game with some RPG elements. I don't know if it's an actual action RPG, but it looks like great fun. Definitely something that
Yeah.
I'm going to probably pick up on day one as well.
Yeah.
Stampede. This is an interesting one. Battle
Yeah.
Kart Royale Racing.
Yeah.
There have been plenty of kart races over the years, but still to this day, nothing's really topped Mario Kart. And now I'm not saying this will top Mario Kart, but it definitely gives Mario Kart a run for its money with the Battle Royale element to it.
Well, I was looking. So if you go onto their TikTok, you can actually see some playtest footage of this game. It's giving me Mod Nation Racers vibes at the moment, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Which is not the worst thing in the world, but again, I still benchmark a lot of these games. We're in 2024. How are you not beating Mario Kart 64, 1996, 1997 game, or whatever year it released? Somewhere like that. Similar, what I said we'll talk about on our play sessions. I've gone back and played Wave Race, but we'll go into that later. It really comes down to the physics.
Yeah.
Physics on this game has to be absolutely on the money. It could be very, very good. And you look at the numbers in this, and I think it's like 60. When I watched it, was 60 potential races going on at the same time. Well, we've also had Riders Republic from Ubisoft. Now, I've not been playing that game.
You're not
Even
comparing
it's
that,
pretty,
are you?
it's a pretty decent. You know, it's enjoyable, but it's very forgettable. There's nothing drawing you in, saying, you know what, you can get really good at this game if you just finesse it, if you understand all of the different nuances you can get.
I still haven't recovered from Steep, so don't mention the word.
You've got steep PTSD.
Steep TSD, yes. Anything racing in Ubisoft, no. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, no. I just about trust them with Assassin's Creed.
Well, yeah,
and
don't
I think
even touch the crew, man. You might have to go to a clinic.
That's another one.
But,
Anyway, so we've got Farah, which was kind of like a Monster Hunter meets Breath of the Wild looking game. It still looked a bit rough around the edges, but I can definitely see an audience
this
for.
was the weird one that people was talking about, that the fact that Microsoft decided to show this in an Xbox showcase, because at least for now, this is only announced for PC. Now, I don't know how to read into that, but it does look like a game you can easily put on console. But I think a big deal was made about Microsoft potentially showing what is only at this point in time announced PC games within this showcase, and that was the one that did it. But it did look interesting.
Yeah.
It did look interesting.
Well, you've got to remember as well, Xbox are not the ones in the race. Game Pass is. That's kind of the, it'll be Game Pass one day as the platform holder, not Xbox. So as long as it's on Game Pass, then they've still got a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
Speaking of weird, all you need is help.
It's not this new Pixel Junk one, is it?
No. All you need is help is what it's called. And it looked like a 4-player Mario Party style game where you control furry Tetris pieces and you will kind of coordinate to do certain objectives on levels. It was so wild and wacky that I don't even know how to describe it, but for some reason I want to play it. And that's all I can say. Tales of Iron 2, I thought looked super cool. The art style is great. It did really remind me of Pentiment, and I think that's probably where they get a lot of the inspiration from. They're definitely capitalizing off of that.
Yeah.
Promise Mascot Agency. This kind of, I took away Persona. There's a mini game in Persona 5, I think it was, where you actually run a strip club like as a mini game.
Right.
And it reminds me of basically that. It's like they've taken that section out of a Persona game and made an entire game just doing that. I love the music and the art style.
Is this an Atlas title, or is it?
It's not.
Similar in the same vein.
I don't think it's an Atlas title. No, it's just that's a cool little mini game. Let's make a full-fledged indie game out of it. So I really enjoyed that part of Persona. It was pretty fun. I'll definitely check that one out.
Just for the audience that might be listening on audio right now, not actually going to the toilet. That is a drink pouring.
Yeah. But use your imagination.
What about stars and galaxies? Da, 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 da. That game looked absolutely awful. This pacing of the singing, the wonky singing on this trailer. And what are they thinking?
It's not on my list, which means it didn't do anything for me. I'll say that much.
It was the trailer. It was they play that somewhere. It's torture.
Yeah.
Absolute torture.
I feel like
it was bad enough seeing the presenters every time comes on, one gets super excited over Power World, decides to run out the shot. What I didn't understand about this, and I'm just going to get into this briefly because it was cringe, okay? You're presenting it like it's Nickelodeon, yet at the same time you are bundling a segment in and saying this is something to do with Jackbox Party Adult Edition. You need to know who your audience is here. Yeah. It's either tailored at adults and you don't include that game in your showcase or coverage, or you bundle that out and just go, well, that's coming out as well. Or you do a complete kid thing. It was such a weird presentation, and I thought that the Future Games show at times got a bit cringe, but this takes the biscuit. Yeah. It really did take the biscuit, and Ubisoft's going to have to work hard to top that this year.
Or they're just saying, screw it. We know kids don't follow the PEGI rating system, and we know that adults like to play kiddie games sometimes, so let's just meld it all as one show and throw some cringy IGN presenters into it.
It was cringe.
I've only got 2 more, then I'll shut up. So the Rewinder, which is this pixel art, amazing looking game. I don't know any other way to explain it, but it actually dropped on Game Pass the same day. So that's definitely what I'm going to check out. And then Shadows of Doubt, which is this 3D voxel art first person. I don't know if it's action or if it's an adventure game, but that looked really interesting as well. Reminded me of Echo's. There was a game a few years ago, Echo something. Eluding me now, but
Echo Chrome? What's that? That was a PSP game.
No, it was. I can't explain it actually. If I find some footage, I'll throw it on screen. But I think what I took away from this whole thing is, regardless whether any of the games were my cup of tea or not, I was incredibly surprised with the visuals of all games, and I think I'm super impressed to see how far indie titles have really, come over the years. It went from just making sort of your Shovel Knight 8-bit style games to, well, now they've got the tools and the imaginations to really get some high quality games out there. They're a little bit risky and break the norms of your Call of Duties every year,
Well, I think better hark back to the end of February. There was an idea Xbox showcase there, and there was that new, what looks like a stealthy game mixed with a woman who deals with poker hands and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it's called. There's, more of these showcases. Look, if indie's going wild, give me more of these showcases, because there seems to be some real gold happening, and we're unearthing that gold here, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got a ones to watch playlist on YouTube. We're in the hunt for Mouse for next year, and we're hoping it gets a console debut. We're looking also at things like Killer Bean, and we've got a whole heap of other ones to watch shorts that are going to be developed. I've actually got a list of about 8 that are going to be coming out over the course as we move into the next couple of months. But these are games that are coming out in 2025 that are, or possibly later this year, but I think the majority of these are coming out next year. And already you can see some real decent stuff that's just formulating in the background that a lot of people don't even know about at this point. It's really exciting, which is, again, excuse me. Again, I don't understand. I just hit the pop shield there. I don't understand why people were getting so concerned about the games industry in terms of this. There could be genuine concern about maybe this AAA situation that's happening right now, but you can't say there's not a real selection of choice. I don't even know where to start with the games that are on Game Pass to play today, let alone what's in my purchase history. There's so much stuff.
I think for me, where it's become really weird and interesting at the same time is, even though Microsoft have splurged, close to $100 billion in all of these studios and games and IPs and engines, the thing that's still keeping them afloat is Game Pass and all these indie titles. Because let's think about it. Xbox really hasn't hit that stride yet where they're releasing game after game to showcase, okay, well, look, we bought Activision, now all these things are coming out. And yes, we got Starfield, but we've only just got Starfield. We haven't gotten another Fallout game. We haven't gotten another Elder Scrolls yet. We haven't gotten, whatever else they're working on. So, yeah, they own these studios, but the games that all these studios are producing haven't really come out and done to Xbox what we'd hoped it would do for Xbox.
Well, you look at the stack, right? Like 3 buses coming along at once. this June show could be extremely strong for Xbox.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that's going to be the tentpole at this show is going to be Indiana Jones. I won't even go as far as saying Hellblade 2 now, because we've been watching Hellblade 2 for 5 years since the the introduction of Series X at the Video Game Awards, and we know it's coming out. What is it? Oh, we're in May already.
We're getting closer to it now. Yeah.
Yeah, we're what 2-3 weeks away from it now.
Yeah.
And we know it's a AA sized game. It's very small. It's going to be $50 instead of the usual $70. So our expectations are tempered. We know it's going to be good. We know it's going to be a good experience. But I think really the shining jewel is going to be Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, but I also believe that we're gonna
and a release date. I'll say.
And we talked about on last episode. Something's coming from Gears. And I'm really intrigued to know what that is. But
do you think that's going to be Xbox's one more thing moment?
I don't know. It's you said to me that you saw interesting job listings on LinkedIn for 343 happening at the moment. Whether they're ready to do anything in June about the next Halo game, I don't know. I think I would love to see them have an extra 12-month bandwidth to make whatever's happening next with the Halo genre, give them what they need to make sure that they don't put them under this pressure belt. And I think Gears could ease that pressure off the studio to possibly release a Halo game that without 300 spinning Master Chiefs.
See, I agree with you, but I don't think we're ready for another Halo game just yet. I think
we're not.
343 have a lot of soul searching to do. They've got to rebuild not only the reputation, but they've got to rebuild the IP. They've got to rebuild the studio. They've got to rebuild the trust with all the gamers. Because yes, Halo Infinite was regarded as one of the better Halos. There was still a lot of issues with it. Whether you're on the campaign side of things and all the bugs like we were, or you're on the multiplayer side of things and just stressing because there's a real lack of content, 1 or 2 maybe updates a year. There's problems on both sides, and I think a lot of it culminates down to the slipspace engine. It was a really difficult piece of tech to kind of get their heads around. And so if any of these rumors that I've been hearing over the last 2 years are true, and that the next Halo game could be on Unreal Engine 5, oh boy, we're in for a treat.
Oh, yeah. Oh. And the way that the last one ended as well, super interesting.
I'm at this point now where I just think every game should just be made on Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah. Well, at least it's not. Was it Unreal Engine 3, the muddy one, or 2?
Unreal Engine 3 was the muddy one. It's your Fallout 3, your New Vegas, your Gears 1 and 2. Yeah, but Unreal Engine 5 is...
it's gorgeous.
It's beautiful. Raindrops. It basically...
It needs an extra 12 months as well, because you've got people that don't even realise you can play Halo Infinite on online co-op right now.
Clearly, from some of the comments we got... I love the fact that that comment was left on one of our videos, even though the whole episode was us playing Halo Infinite in co-op. So
online, I know it's very bizarre. It's a classic case of nobody reading past the headline. Yeah, and actually, it's fanboyism there because we actually go on to say a lot of good stuff about that game, but you never listen long enough. So But anyway,
I'm gonna admit I'm guilty of that at times. What did I do? I wanted to retweet something on X, and then I guess it picked up that I didn't click on the article and said, "Right, do you want to read this first before you?" Yeah. I was like, I felt kind of embarrassed, I'm like, I better read this.
I mean, it does it for everyone. Yeah. But it is interesting. There's attention spans, but if you're still listening, you've still got the old attention span going there, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly as we try and up our watch time here on the video side, but
and to make it absolutely clear, we do like Halo Infinite. In case there was still
a shadow of a doubt. I'll give it 86 out of 100 easily.
There you go, the finite score, 86.
86. I don't like giving scores. I mean, we don't think we've kind of said we're going to go and apply scores, definitively to the stuff that we do. But it was
we're like Dave Portnoy over here. We don't want to give amateur noob scores. An 85 is too much of a noob score, as he would say. An 86 is a bit more accurate.
Well, it depends, though, doesn't it? It depends whether it's Detroit style or not. But
well, I mean, pizza and Halo are two very different things. So,
well, they both serve beautifully with Gatorade. But anyway,
and they both go well together.
Exactly, indeed. A couple of quick ones here. So, we had the year-on-year revenue report come up. CNBC stuff here, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we
Get
go.
those statos on. So year-on-year revenue is up for Xbox content and services by 61%, but it's kind of like cooking the book slightly because it's largely attributed to the Activision Blizzard acquisition. I don't think there's too much to read into here. Bolstered maybe perhaps a little bit by Warzone, the World of Warcraft expansions that are yet to be released, and the ones that are released, and the next Diablo 4 expansion. I don't know. There's nothing really to read into this. Everyone is, it's like blood on the streets right now in companies across the world, and you've got to take that into account before you start going, oh, look, Xbox again on these sales, and there's just so much made about these sales lists, and it felt like Groundhog Day. It felt like 2 weeks before we started this podcast, before the false start episode, where everyone was losing their minds over a bunch of games going third party. It's like we went and circumnavigated against that again just because of some opinions that were expressed by the author of Windows Central.
Oh, yeah.
So all the fanboys climb on it, and now on X you've got Grok, which is their AI news. Well, you can use it for AI, but they use it to pretty much procure their news stories. So Grok's obviously not that intelligent to verify sources, and it creates a little thing up there, and then all of a sudden this thing blows out of proportion, and everyone, people on X are melting down. It ended, this wasn't a meltdown that lasted 2 weeks. This particular meltdown lasted a day. But the question thingied again about, is Xbox just going to throw everything on PlayStation? Again, I don't think it's going to happen. But actually, I think that the next news story I want to talk about and tilt, and we'll go back to a couple of small ones afterwards, is a prime candidate, in my opinion, for PlayStation. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we have an update.
Oh.
Well, I say we have an update. We don't really have an update, but I have a theory on Redfall. We're back on Redfall, the
and I'm
worst
hoping,
performing video on our list.
I think you're hoping Grok will pick this up and make us famous.
Well, maybe. So, basically, yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of Redfall's release. And going back to the beginning of April, we had a lot of, teasing from the Redfall X account about a new world and expansion. We talked about this on our opening episode of the podcast. And I thought, that'd be an interesting subject to talk about. I'll throw that up online. And, well, nobody really watched it because they're not interested in Redfall at this point. A lot of people have turned off. So it was like, well, what's going on here? It makes sense here that you go out and talk about Redfall on your anniversary. If you've got something cooking in the background, this is your time to do it. And it's been complete radio silence on their X account, almost as if someone's had a word with them in their ear and said, look, I know you want to get this out because you want to fulfill your contractual obligations, but we've got a little slot for you on June 9th in the Xbox showcase. So this is what I think is going on here. I think Redfall is going to make a DLC announcement and also fulfill the additional characters as part of the season pass stuff for Redfall at the Microsoft event. I also think some of the rationale behind them holding off, because it looked like they were going to go out and say something and then all of a sudden didn't, was largely to do with another Bethesda-owned company in the success of what happened with Fallout. A big, wave of momentum that happened off the TV series and the Fallout 4 graphics patch. It would feel like a real dumb PR move to get lost in all that. Because even right now, several weeks after the series has come out, Fallout 4 is the hot topic in the gaming industry right now. People are still talking about it. So I think they've purposely decided to pull back, and I think we're going to see something from them in June about an expansion, possibly a new part of the map. Like you said, possibly maybe the ability to actually go back to other areas of the map once you complete it in New Game Plus. That's what I think is going on. I don't know if you think that's a possibility, but it just seems odd otherwise, and that's I tried to rationalize it.
It wouldn't be the most far-fetched thing. No, I mean, it would make perfect sense. I mean, you considering the road to recovery that I would hope Redfall is on, the last thing you want to do is say, guys, remember us during the midst of the Fallout craze. No, you're absolutely right. Do I see them announcing something at Summer Game Fest? Going to say sort of a 95% certainty there is going to be something. I don't think it's going to be stage presence. I think it's going to be world premiere. Yeah, and then 60 seconds of Bite Back Edition. Remember us. Oh, by the way, we're coming to PlayStation. Can you imagine the outcry?
They've got more chance of people at least talking about it again than just putting the announcement on X, right?
Yeah, but I think this is definitely going to be something that is going to eventually end up on PlayStation.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
June 2025. That's when it's going to land. We're putting the bet. We have no sources.
No sources.
That's when we think it's going to happen.
Except our own thoughts and opinions. And I'm going to take a stab and say it's going to be Phil and Sarah Bond again. Maybe Matt Booty. Round table. We've analysed the 4 titles that we dropped last year. Everything's great. We're going to do it again, this time with 5.
Yeah.
So...
with 5, and one of them's Redfall, which you guys...
Redfall, which
you're
not
going to be that sad to see go over.
No, I say 5. You're going to get the Xbox version of Redfall, and then you're going to get the PS5 version of Redfall, both on PlayStation. So you got the choice.
You can't even call it the Game of the Year edition.
Well, that will be the Xbox version, the broken version with all the missing stuff. That's the Game of the Year edition. No, it's I don't know. I'm slowly losing hype. There was a point earlier this year we were really playing this, and it was fun for a good chunk of it.
Yeah, 10 hours.
Do I want to go back and part of me does, a very small part of me, yeah. If I can go back and replay missions in other areas of the map that I'm now locked off from, oh, absolutely, I'll pick it up. But then again, if they release DLC and it happens to be on Game Pass, even though I can't go back to the previous maps, yeah, I'll play the DLC. Why not? It's free.
Yeah.
Wasn't the worst.
You know, it is technically a redeemable title, and again, it comes down to what you said last episode about, you know, is it worth picking up fixing Halo Infinite's campaign for a couple of people on YouTube? Probably not. But again,
Halo's also
paid for content. They've got to deliver that content.
Well, and Halo's also a higher, priority game. Do you think that they would?
Well, they did an update last week, and it's all multiplayer based.
Oh yeah,
again.
That's
anyway.
what the money is.
Yep. A couple of small ones here. So there had been a report, and usually I'd cite sources here, but I've not got it. But basically, I think it was like a Spanish outlet or something like that. It's a little bit of tidbit news here on Switch. It's going to take you 30 seconds to get through it. So, the horrible slide-on attachment controllers for the Switch. Annoying because half the time you put them around the wrong way and they get stuck.
Yeah.
Well, they found a supposed solution, and that's to use magnetic controllers.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not 100% confirmed from Nintendo, but supposedly magnetic-based controllers and fully compatible with Switch. The Switch 2 should play Switch carts. So we've got back compat, possible things happening here. They don't need to change the format of their cards by the looks of things. You can get storage in the size that can rival PS4 Pro, which is where I think this is going to be hitting spec front.
Yeah.
So they'll be able to do that.
I think the magnet thing's interesting. It definitely makes sense. I just hope that the magnets are strong enough that they won't bend as you're kind of playing intensely in handheld mode. And it's tough because at the same time, this thing's supposed to be built for kids. So you don't want to make them too strong and then kids not being able to pull them off.
Right, yeah.
Have you ever gotten one of those, I don't know what they're called. It's like a fishing magnet. And it's like one of those really super strong. I'll tell you why I know this, because I had an old safe at home and I lost the key. No, actually the battery thing died and I couldn't open it. And I saw on YouTube somewhere that if you get this particular really strong fishing magnet, You can put it up against the side and it will manipulate the lock and it will lift the hook to open the door. So I bought one of these stupidly strong magnets for $20, and I tell you, it got stuck to the side of my washing machine and I couldn't pull it off. With all my might and force, could not pull it off.
Really?
So, yeah. So those things are out there, and I just wonder how strong they're going to go. Do they have kids in the Nintendo labs that they're testing this stuff on?
Well, I don't know, but you definitely don't want a metal plate in your head, right?
Well, this is it. You've got some kid who's got a platinum plate in his head, and he sticks the Joy-Con to his head, and now he goes to hospital with an analog stick popping out of his forehead.
Maybe it's just something, or there might be some manual mechanic, but it just perhaps I don't know.
I just had the worst idea.
I mean, that's what's been happening in Nintendo.
I just had the worst
idea. We're
idea.
talking about magnetic controllers.
No, I've thought of one that's worse. Are you ready for this?
Go on then.
Velcro.
Velcro.
The Skechers equivalent of Joy-Con.
Oh my goodness me.
Yeah.
Well, they did Nintendo Labs. What was it called? Labo. Nintendo Labo. You know, they were playing around with cardboard for a while.
I'm so glad you got that right, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. A couple of letters short. We were talking about something completely different.
Yeah.
But anyway,
title.
We got some other interesting news. We're going to talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not being funny. I'm not a business person, okay? But if you were going to create a live service game, perhaps make it multi-plat. We've got an update, and this is just, this is karma. I don't like anyone seeing lose their jobs or anything like that, but SquareEnix has confirmed that they're scaling back. They've not confirmed any redundancies here, but you can bet your bottom dollar there are. But they're scaling back and cancelling a number of game projects in a cost-cutting exercise. That's cost them just to cancel these games. They've said, you know what? Screw it. It's going to cost us more, but it's going to cost us 140 million. But by the time we get to the end of the cycle, God knows what the cost is. The same company that decided to make Foam Stars a live service exclusive to PS5. This isn't rocket science, you know. This isn't rocket science to figure out that was a bad move. Well, they just confirmed $140 million down the toilet, life-changing amounts of money down the toilet. Square Enix, you know, you can release Rebirth, but you look at the plethora of other titles in your arsenal, and perhaps they're not the best choices being made. But yeah, they're cancelling a number of game projects. They didn't decide to say what they were, but it's just, you know, typical bloatware at some of these companies, or I don't know who makes these decisions to make those types of games exclusive.
You know what the problem is, right? Right, so these corporate figures, all they do is look at numbers on a spreadsheet, okay? And they say, oh, this one's got high numbers, let's do more of that to make more money, okay? I get that. But the problem is, they're so trapped in their bloody spreadsheet world that they don't understand that the opinions of gamers doesn't correlate to numbers on spreadsheets apart from lost sales. But that's too late after the fact. Go out there, do some research. Don't
play some video games.
Yeah, you can't just get the damn what is it, the ex-CEO of Pepsi to run a game company. I'm not saying that happened, but you need someone who's familiar with. I wouldn't be surprised in corporate America. Yeah. You need someone who understands games, who understands gamers. Don't get me wrong. There's a couple of few freak accidents that happen, like PUBG and Fortnite. Doesn't mean if you make it every single time by every publisher and developer out there, it's going to be a hit. It's just, you're all fighting for people's time, the same individual's time. You can only play one game at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just deaf ears at this point.
It's very, very, very bizarre. And, you know, SquareEnix, you know what to do. Very simple. I tell you what I want to do. I want them to do. I want them to remake Final Fantasy 1 through 6. All right? Take the old pixel art NES and SNES versions. Keep it pixel art in Vampire Survivors high def.
Not that bad, but... No, I wouldn't even mind if they did it on the original FF7 style. Not the remake style, but they polygon it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Make it an actual world. They were good games.
Yeah. I love 6. 6 is my favourite. 6 is the favourite I've played.
6 was
something about 6. So good. Anyway, that is literally wrapped up our news segment for this week.
Done running.
Some interesting stuff there. Now this was a bridging episode, but we're gonna go into our footage that you can see on screen, and I'm gonna have to really go right back into the dome. I'm gonna have to search back into the back of your dome, your skull,
Sounds
to
so wrong.
figure out
Leave my dome alone.
we can go back into your playthrough of God of War Ragnarok, because we were on vacation. Usually we do this co-op centric, but we are still, and maybe possibly after we finish wrapping up this recording session, we are so close to finishing It Takes Two.
So
But
close.
let's talk a little bit about here God of War Ragnarok. I want to start off to talk about the free DLC, because that was the latest thing that was announced.
Yeah.
So, as far as I'm aware, is this a procedurally generated run type situation with Valhalla? It's different each playthrough on the DLC.
Yeah, I don't know if it's procedurally generated. It's different with each run. So let me just backtrack a bit. So Ragnarok Valhalla is the free DLC that Santa Monica Studios announced that I'm not sure we really needed, to be honest.
Right.
It definitely made waves and caused a stir because, oh my God, Ragnarok, God of War, and anything God of War is, amazing. And I've caught myself going in circles in my head about this. Like, okay, why would they release this? Why would it be free? And then, so in a nutshell, Ragnarok Valhalla is basically like a challenge mode added on to God of War Ragnarok, but it's done with a sprinkle of story on it, if that makes sense. So you do encounter, Mimir and the Valkyries, and you're going through Valhalla, and every time you go through the doors of Valhalla, the challenge becomes harder, but there is a story purpose behind it. Okay, that part, fine, that's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
But the part that makes this interesting and makes me believe that there's more to this DLC than meets the eye is that there are a lot of Easter eggs explained throughout. So you may get to the end of a run and you'll come across an item or an artifact or have a flashback, and it will be something to do with one of the previous games. And I'm even talking as far back as like God of War 1, 2, and 3, the original PS3, versions.
Yeah.
And there was also the word Egypt thrown around a couple of times in the DLC. And there was also quite a few mentions of Greece in the DLC. Now, if you don't understand where I'm going with this, let me help you out. So there has been rumors that after Greece, obviously we got to the reboot in 2018 where they're in sort of the Norse environment, snowy Norse. People have said, okay, after Ragnarok, the story technically finishes. Where is he off to next? There's been leaks and rumors of Egypt for years. And since Egypt was mentioned a few times in this DLC, that obviously, solidifies that. I've also got another theory. For some reason, I don't know why, feel like he may go back, Kratos may revisit Greece again. Because there was a lot of harking back to who he was at a younger age and the decisions he made, and now he's got his son Atreus, and Atreus has kind of gone off and done his own thing. Where is the story going? And I think either they've done this deliberately to throw a spanner in the works to make people not be so kind of looking towards the direction of Egypt, or maybe he does go to Egypt and then he goes back to Greece and then comes back to the North. I don't know. They could do all three, to be honest.
His passport stamped.
Oh God, he really at this point he really could kind of go in any direction. But
Yeah.
I wasn't digging the gameplay at first because I just felt like, I don't really want another challenge mode in game. I'm sick of challenge modes. You can't just add a challenge mode and call it free DLC and say, oh, the game's alive again. But after I played it for a couple of hours, I really did appreciate what the DLC was trying to do. And the fact that it was free makes me feel like they wanted to get this out there to as many people as possible. And if we look at the timing, what's happening next month? We've got the Summer Game Fest show happening. I got a feeling the promo run for the next God of War entry may start up. And they needed that missing piece of the puzzle to kind of be out there before they start, doing this. So I liked it. It was good fun. Lot of combat, a lot of challenge actually.
Yeah.
And I really it's interesting because I never jumped aboard the PS3 console, so I missed a lot of those games that were exclusive. So I'm kind of catching up now.
You avoided the bread bin.
I avoided the bread bin. I heard the Xbox 360 games were better versions anyway, but nevertheless, you can get God of War 3 remastered on PS5 now for a few dollars, or if you subscribe to the premium tier of PSN. And God of War 2018 was free, I think, for the first year if you bought a PS5, which I did and got that game for free. And 2018 God of War was such an amazing remake, revamp, eye-opener. I was blown away, and I think I'll talk about this in one of our later sections.
Yeah, it's interesting. You probably might want to log into your PlayStation Network to see if you've got this game free, because Sony have obviously gifted away a bunch of free games because they keep getting hacked. Anyway, that's what happens. That's what they've done. I was seeing where these games in my... I don't remember buying these. And there was a bunch of free games in my section.
Could be account splicing.
Yeah, exactly. Ragnarok, how does it compare against other God of War games in the series? You know, what was the most, in terms of the story that is happening, what's the most engrossing aspect of it? You know, is this one particularly grabbed you? Is it really, or was it that DLC that kind of got you a bit more interested in what comes next?
When you say Ragnarok, are you referring to the full game of Ragnarok, or Ragnarok Valhalla, which was the DLC?
No, we're talking about the full game. Let's ignore the DLC for a minute. Yeah. We've got the continuation of the story here. Obviously, you've got that childbirth that happens in it.
Yeah, that's the biggest. That's the biggest inflection point, not only in Kratos' life, but also the head designer of God of War. He had a couple of kids, I think, and that was kind of where the inspiration drew from. No, it does make, a character like Kratos, who's this hungry, bloodthirsty god of war, no other way to put it, kind of really reflect on his actions and choices and say, well, I've got a son now. This is... what do I do? Am I raising him right? Am I showing him the right path? And so there's a lot of those key moments in the story that happen throughout, not only on the 2018 remake of God of War, but in Ragnarok as well. And so we've kind of finished this. I'm going to call it first part of this father-son arc, because I don't think it's finished. Yeah. And I don't want to spoil it, because at the end of Ragnarok, something does happen, which I think alludes to where they're going next. But that really it is all centered around that. And so not only does the story center around that, but the cause of the rebirth is another excuse to center around that. The combat's different, obviously, because now you're not only controlling Kratos, but you've got to take into consideration that you've got you got your son in the game who's kind of fighting, but he's not as powerful as you. But you can command him in certain ways by pushing triangle. He may fire an arrow as you're kind of smashing him with your chaos swords or whatever. But yeah, it really is all centered around the sun.
So that's quite interesting, and I think that in terms of that gameplay that happens in this particular God of War title, have they nailed the sweet spot? We talked about in previous episodes about game length, and are people eking it out for the sake of eking it out? I still think It Takes Two perhaps is maybe an hour and a half longer than it should be. What's happening on that point? Are we hitting samification everywhere? Are we seeing some stuff, or is it just cinematic? You go through it, you can't wait to hit the next bit, or is it like high, dips out, middles out a bit, and then you get a high finish?
I felt that the 2018 remake had way more highs and lows, and introduced a lot more, obviously, because it's the first of the remakes, than Ragnarok did. I think Ragnarok-wise, it definitely does a lot to finish off some story points and address certain things that weren't explained in the 2018 remake. But in my opinion, I've been very vocal about this, and it's somewhat controversial. I prefer the 2018 God of War to Ragnarok, because, and for one simple reason, 2018 gave us a true open world, right? It put you in this area. You could travel between realms using the Bifrost. And each realm had a purpose, each realm had a story, each realm had a keeper and a reason you needed to go there, or there was some historical lore as to why you can't go there, and everything was well explained. Ragnarok doesn't give you an open world. it kind of takes
Oh.
slivers of those realms and says you've got to revisit this part of realm X to get item A. And then you kind of dip out, and then it takes you to. So it's more on rails. And then when you're in, like I said, when you're in these realms, you're only seeing a part of what you just especially if you play them back to back like I did, it was really apparent. So while technologically, yes, 2018 was introduced on PS4 and was upgraded to PS5, Ragnarok being built purely. Well, actually, no, that was a cross-gen title as well. You could argue that there were new things, there was new weapon moves, but there wasn't anything really groundbreaking. Cinematics, yeah, there was a couple of intense story fights, and especially right at the beginning. I won't spoil it, and everyone who's played it knows exactly what I'm talking about. But other than that, I thought Ragnarok did drag on a little bit too much. There was a good plot twist towards the end with a particular character. But other than that, yeah, I felt that 2018 did everything right and is an absolute 10 out of 10. Ragnarok, I'd probably say 8.5, maybe 9.
Right, okie doke. And I'm just trying to hark back because I've not really dipped my feet in a little bit of God of War and I haven't really gone too deep. The one thing that always I remember from God of War 3 was that scene where all of a sudden he's just actually pulling the head off someone. Is there more of that interesting executions and these boss fights? What are they like?
No, the cinematics leading up to these boss fights and particular characters in general are just some of the best lead ups I've ever seen in video games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, especially, God of War 2018 sets a lot of it up, and you do engage in combat with certain characters, but it stays away from actually engaging in combat with some of those main characters. Just left like, oh, are they going to fight or are they not? And then obviously the ending, and then the ending of 2018 solidifies, oh yeah, they're going to meet. And then the beginning of Ragnarok's like, oh crap, it's happening finally. And so it just throws you straight into like continuation mode. It doesn't sort of, build up. And no, Ragnarok really picks off where 2018 left off.
Oh, nice.
I really highly recommend picking it up on a sale. I happily pay 70 for either of those games, but definitely you want a good reason to dust the PS5 off. God of War is it.
Dust the PS5 off.
Yeah. I remember you saying you don't get much use out of it.
No, well, look, I tried to be an agnostic, and I've said it before. A lot of this comes down to what I play is all about friends list, achievements, all of that type of stuff. It's nothing against PS5. It's just a lot of that is to do with the history. You build up over 10 years of being on a premium platform, and if people were honest, they'd probably say the same.
Yeah.
Just a couple last questions then on Ragnarok here. If someone is new to the series, where should they start? Because it's a little bit like Modern Warfare in the fact that you've got these things and all of a sudden it's rebooted. And where do we start? Is it...
Yeah,
do you have to jump back to an old console to play a second and a third, and then jump back to?
No, you can definitely pick up the older ones, like I said, on PS5, PSN Premium, I think the tier is called. I've never played God of War 1, 2, or 3. I'll just put that out there right now. The fact that God of War 2018 got so much praise and it was free, it was the culmination of me saying, let me finally play this because I've heard so much about it. And they're two different styles of games. Yes, there is a lot of hack and slash button bashing elements to it, but whereas 1, 2, and 3 were purely platform hack and slashers, 2018 and Ragnarok, they're kind of, imagine Resident Evil 4 remake. You're kind of from that perspective now.
Right.
And then obviously when you go into battle, then the craziness comes out. But it's a lot more refined, a lot more strategic. There's definitely moves that you have to do in coordination with certain button combos, power-ups, resource harvesting. There's a lot there. It really is a thick game. So if you're new to the series like I was, pick up God of War 2018. It's on PS5. It's been upgraded for PS5, and it's regularly on sale for $20. It's nice. You will not regret it. And this, you get to that point after, you play a new game, you're sort of 2-3 hours in, and you're thinking, okay, I think I see the arc here. I kind of see where this is going. God of War gets you to that point and then says, oh, you haven't seen anything yet, and then opens up the open world map element. You're just like, whoa, there's all this. And so that's when it gets like, it was fun before. Then it's like, oh crap, it's really fun now. So no, I'm going to keep an eye out for the sale, and if it's your birthday, I'll even pop you a
Well,
code.
hang on. I think I might even have it. I think I might even have it in my PS5 game collection. I have to check. I need to get an app to find out what physical games I've got because I keep buying duplicates. I've bought 2 copies of Crackdown 3, 2 copies of Ghost Recon.
Crackdown 3 is not even a good game. If it was a good game, I'd understand.
I know. I see a game if it's that sweet spot CEX dirty, get the floor price out. I'm like, I'll have some of that.
Yeah.
I need to get I've got like a digital proper collection app from my music collection.
Mm-hmm.
Can't see it behind the green screen. Basically, bottom of the floor to top CD collection, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going back to physical here. I need to get an app on my phone to make sure I don't keep buying duplicate games. But anyway, there was one last question on Ragnarok, and it's like, for anyone that's new to the God of War series, let's compare this against others in the genres. Is there anything you actually prefer over this in this specific genre?
Oh God.
Obviously not Stellar Blade because you didn't rate it the other week.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't a huge fan of Stellar Blade.
Is things like Bayonetta or Darksiders or things like that, maybe?
No, honestly, I think God of War tops it. It really is the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Sold.
Like I said, I'll even happily buy you that game. I think that game is just something that I think everyone should play.
Yeah.
For so many reasons.
I'm pretty sure I've got it.
You've got to start playing
double check.
it. Oh, God.
I've got to start playing Retrograde and get up to date with the Final Fantasy series, but that's not happening either.
Yeah, well, they added Persona 3 Reloaded on Game Pass not too long ago, and I'm dreading going back to that.
Well, the difficulty is, as well, is that we're obviously trying to stack content for you here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. So getting into a 100-hour game and actually making sure that you've got a co-op game it's interesting. It starts to get interesting.
Hashtag
time management.
Business needs.
There we go. Anyway, we are going to throttle on with the rest of this podcast. And I'm going to quickly go into the Backbone Revisited segment. Last episode, we talked about the Backbone controller. We said it's a recommended buy. And then we said, we better check something out to make sure that it is a recommended buy. I'm pretty sure from what I've seen of the screenshots you sent me, is this a critique against Backbone, or is this a critique against the fact that a proprietary port has changed?
So it's not really a critique of Backbone if Apple decide to change from Lightning to USB-C. No, not by any stretch. But it's a critique probably in their design where they could have said, well, looking historically, every year phone camera lenses have gotten bigger and bigger. Maybe we should move that back plastic piece that connects the left to the right side a little bit lower, so if it does get bigger, it will accommodate more phones. And that's my gripe. It's just, maybe I'm in a situation on my own here. Maybe others have experienced it, but when you buy a Backbone and it's an expensive controller, and then sort of 2-3 months later you upgrade your phone and you all of a sudden can't use it, and now I've got this plastic thing sitting in my tray in my drawer. That definitely does leave a sour taste in your mouth.
Right, fair enough.
I want to like it. It is really well built. It's solid.
Yeah.
But I can't use it.
No, it's kind of interesting in regards to that. The one thing that you mentioned in the last episode was about, is this proprietary to the app? And that was the one thing I really wanted to check out before I gave it the seal of approval. So I deleted the app, and then started playing games without the app on it. Plugged the thing in. I've got support. It knows the controls. So I think from a software point of view, the Backbone, what you're paying that subscription for, that you can choose to pay £30 a year for 12 months, it's curation. It's no different to as if you subscribe to a satellite TV provider that decide to bundle everything together, give you a one UX experience. I don't even know if I'm taking full advantage of that. But £30 just to have everything there is...
You'll have to explain this to me. So how does the curation work then? So you're in a Backbone app. It says, here are, 5 or 10 games that we recommend you play. and then let's say you tap on a game. What does that do?
Yeah.
That takes you to another app where the game is, or it's inside the Backbone app streaming?
It's not inside the Backbone app, no. There's a little bit of, like literally bolting on a front end. So your typical Apple, we're going to push you to the store now to download this game. There's still that, which, it's not great. It's not great, but once you got the games installed...
No, that's definitely not worth the money. Oh, my God.
I like seeing it all. I'll pay £30 a month.
Don't get me wrong.
It's not a month, it's a year.
I'm sure there is a nicety to having something presented all in one place.
Yeah.
But I would expect it more, especially from you, considering you're really into games and we do this podcast. And generally speaking, your ears to the street. So that's what I wouldn't expect.
It's throwing games in front of you.
I don't mind looking elsewhere for games.
No, right, okay. So that's that. I'm speaking specifically about the App Store titles, right?
Sure.
You've got Apple, right? But then when it comes to connecting to Game Pass, you can connect to that through Backbone's app.
So it switches
without
apps.
having to download an Xbox Game Pass app. It feels seamless. Similarly to when you're going into a PlayStation, the PS Share, third party side of things. So it's not 100% seamless in places, but other places it feels really good. But I think that the element of, just having that front loading app where you can, if you want to connect with other people, like an Xbox dashboard, add people as friends, play mobile games together and all that stuff. It's great for it. Do I need to pay that £30 a month? Not a month, a year? Probably not necessarily. Now I've done that test and deleted it.
You're not dead.
You could just get the controller. Look,
you're not dead.
I paid £35 in CEX for this thing secondhand, and that's a bargain.
That is a bargain.
So, for me, it's going to come across as a real bargain. I'll pay you the 30 for the 12 months and have a look at it over the course of a year. Is that app adding enough to warrant that yearly subscription? I think that's still up for the debate. But the controller itself, the fact that it's not proprietary, the fact that it feels good in the hand, and they've got newer versions of this controller out now.
I've
that's
been burnt,
until WWDC or wherever Apple announces a new camera now with a telescopic lens. But I for me, it changed. It moved the dial on mobile gaming anyway.
Yeah. No, hardware-wise, they've nailed it. I just would like to have seen... And it's a really small thing, They could have easily just pushed the depth out of the backbone a little bit more, so as cameras do grow, it's not hitting up against that plastic. It's a really small thing, but hey, here we are.
Exactly. Now, we're moving on to the lower regions of our podcast segment here. We're going to perhaps speed things up a little bit here.
Yep.
And the evergreen segment for this week is if you could have your memory wiped and you wanted to experience a game for the first time, what would it be? I'm going to list mine very quickly. It is Ultrawings for the PlayStation VR. You might be going, why? Why would you... Why is that important? Well, it was my first ever experience of virtual reality where I didn't actually have to, sit and I was under a time constraint. I was literally enjoying that game. I bought my VR headset for the first time. I experienced flying in VR, which changes the game. Goodness me, I would love to play something like Flight Simulator in VR. It would just be earth-shattering, right? So it was just that feeling of inertia, that feeling like you were 30,000 feet genuinely up in the air in a lightweight aircraft. And it was the first time I could have that experience, because I always remember going back to playing something that was on the original PlayStation VR, and I can't remember the name of the title, but it was when me and you were out at an expo, and it was a taste of that VR action, and I was like, wow.
Omega Agent.
Omega Agent, my goodness, you remember it?
I remember it.
Like, wow, this game is incredible.
I was looking for it about a month ago, actually, randomly. One night, I was alone on the sofa. I was like, whatever happens to that game? Did it end up somewhere? No, it's still stuck on Samsung Galaxy S something, and that's where it's died. I'd love to see
Yeah.
that come out. Yeah.
It was great. It just like
Yeah.
it was that moment of, and that's what I'm all about, especially with these future game experiences. Like, what's going to change the dial next? And whilst VR is no replacement for standard gaming, in terms of giving you that experience that's memorable, it's always great for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about yourself?
For me, I've spoke a lot about God of War today. That's definitely one I'd love to have a blank slate on and go through again. It was just such a phenomenal experience, just discovering the world, the lore, and seeing the correlation between, funnily enough, Thor, the Marvel Thor. There's a lot of correlation between the two. But besides that, Cyberpunk, because of the way it launched, I've said it before, Cyberpunk's one of my top 5 favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
But, CD Projekt Red have said several times that the amount of updates and what they've done with the Phantom Liberty DLC, there's so much they've added that it actually changes the game experience entirely. And I've already said I'm going to go in and play from the start again before I do the DLC to see what they were talking about. But even still, just knowing the sequence of events, the overarching story, the kickers, the twists and turns, I would love to go in and play that blind. And who knows, maybe after it's been three years since Cyberpunk launched?
Yeah.
Maybe I've forgotten enough that it will feel like a new game. I don't know. So I'm actually really looking forward to going in and playing Phantom Liberty at some point, as well as the main base game.
Nice, exactly. It's I don't know. I was expecting to give a bit more of a like maybe an obvious answer or something, but it is all about that. It is genuinely like the wow moment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that for me, it's not necessarily about the story as much as I enjoyed Nathan Drake and playing Uncharted for the first time, and perhaps not enjoying it 4 times around where you just modify the storyline slightly. but there we go. Let's go on to our recommended buy. We're going to rattle across this one. Recommended buy this week.
We're in agreement.
It's just superb. We're in agreement.
Yeah.
We're in agreement.
Devolver have done it again.
Devolver Digital smashing games out of the park every single year. It's incredible. Give us a little bit of an intro into that.
Yeah, so Inscryption's an interesting one. I bought this game purely off of the screenshots and the way it looked. I've never bought a game from Devolver where I've been disappointed. So obviously this was no exception. Wasn't quite sure what to expect because some screenshots had sort of 3D elements, some had like a card game, some had this map with like chess-like pieces on it. So I had no idea what I was getting into. But it turns out that it's all centered around this card game, and you're taking turns on like a map screen with a chess piece, and then you get up from. I don't know if I'm explaining this. You probably explain this a lot better.
Basically,
than I.
you've got. So the idea is you face this monster guy in a cabin right at the start of the game. You get an inclination that maybe someone's booted up a cartridge to a game, or how on earth has someone got here? It's not abundantly clear at this point in time how this person transported to this world.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, you have a scales of justice thing on the side of the map. You've got a deck of different cards that you get assigned, which happens to be animals in most cases, or yourself if you keep dying. You have different iterations that you can kind of basically splice a bunch of cards, death cards. The idea is basically to overpower your opponent and tip the scales over to one side in order to be able to beat the venture. This game kind of follows very similar to Hand of Fate, but without the bits where it skips off and you actually do the combat section. It's all deck builder based. What's really nice about this game, it's not just a roguelike deck builder. The actual cabin itself, you can explore. And you've got some talkable animals that join your card deck.
Yeah.
A stoat, and I think later on a stink bug. And there's a third character that I'm still waiting to unlock right now. And they are telling you that basically this is effectively like an endless loop that you're in, and we want to try and help you get you out of this endless loop. And it was really interesting because that when I harked back to that like cartridge, there was this old rumor about this arcade game that supposedly like, whether it's a CIA operation or something, it's called Polybius. I swear we talked about it at some point years ago. But there's just this mystique about this game. It's got a great atmosphere. It's got interesting characters. As you go across the map, you get aids that you can, add little items to your run to help you get through. And one of them's you can pull your own teeth out to tilt the scale, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The ability to stop, make your opponent skip the other side. And then there's the main character himself. It's one person, and he puts these different little face masks on and pretends to be different people, like a dungeon keeper in a Dragons, Dungeons and Dragons game. There's just a ton of ambience in this game that's super interesting, and you're forced into dying in this game a lot. It's not a case of, we want you just rubbish at it. At the opening, I think 4 or 5 plays, you're kind of put in situations where you're meant to die in order to progress the story in the game. And I think this is a game you just keep playing. You get to a certain point. You might get up to the boss on level 1, beat the boss, get through, and then play and grind up through 2 until your deck's, a lot better. But at the same time, you're getting little clues about things in the cabin you're in to unlock stronger cards. So intelligent the way that this game is, and there's a similar to, it's interesting, my recommended buy, we've already had 2 deck builders and 1 arcade racing game kind of in it, but again it adds all of these mutations, permutations, so many different outcomes that makes this super addictive to play. And I just think it's a super atmospheric game. It's something that people should check out. It's currently 50% off.
Yeah, it's a steal.
So, it's a great opportunity to pick that one up. Was there anything else that you wanted to kind of add to that, or?
No, I think you did a way better job explaining it than I ever could. It's a weird game to kind of, even when you manage to kind of verbalize it, it still doesn't really paint the picture of what this game actually is. You've got to just jump in with an open mind.
Yeah.
And start off with just go with the flow. Yeah, you're playing a card game, and all of a sudden it tells you to get up off your seat and explore the room that you're all of a sudden, oh, I'm sitting in this room.
Yeah.
I can do things to the stuff on the walls. So it's a weird game, but that's what I love about Devolver. They've always had this catalog of weird and wonderful stuff that somehow it always just works.
Exactly, and I think that if I was to ever rubber stamp this with an experience, it's going back to a board game that I grew up with as a child that had a VHS tape, and it was called Atmosphere.
Oh yeah, I remember
And
that.
you put the VHS tape in, and you see this guy in a cloak, and it's super mysterious. I used to get like scared when my sister got the board game out. This game doesn't necessarily recreate that for nostalgia purposes, but it tries to re-encapsulate perhaps that type of feeling in this game, and it's just superb. Perhaps the person that you're facing is a little bit more forgiving than the Atmosphere character, but anyway.
Where have you gotten up to? I've gotten to the 3rd boss. I just cannot beat him.
Yeah, same. I'm on the 3rd boss right now, and
keeps
I'm
killing me.
grinding through the snow or blizzardy based aesthetic to that level. So but it just feels nice to go back do another run, because you feel like you're kind of rewarded for keep going back. I think even the developers want you to be able to finally finish this game the way that they've made it.
Yeah.
But yeah, recommended buy of the week. Interestingly enough, I think we might have to really blitz through our Playstack this week. So I'm going to be super, super quick here. I've gone retro. I played a little bit of Diddy Kong Racing. I played Wave Race. The Delta emulator, ladies and gentlemen. It's superb. Rare, everyone's talking about rebooting Perfect Dark this summer. No, make another kart racer. Do a decent kart racer. I don't care about Perfect Dark. I'm going to skip past. Played Inscryption. We talked about that. It Takes Two. It's nearly done. Vampire Survivors. I've checked the graphics update. and unlock 7 new achievements. Let's talk about the games that are very, very quickly, and maybe I'll go back on next episode. We've got a bit more time. Rainbow Six SMOL is a mobile-based game that you can barely call a Rainbow Six Vegas game. Top-down shooter, bit of tactical, interesting stuff going on here. One of the Netflix originals games on mobile. Really super polished, really nicely done. Recommend people check it out. It's super addictive, and it takes some of these gameplay modes from previous Rainbow Six Vegas games and maybe like minionizes it like Illumination Entertainment, because you've got these interesting characters. Last one I want to just briefly touch upon, Penny's Big Breakaway. Interesting. Take-Two release this. It's trying to be a little bit like Sonic 3D. It's released. Did I enjoy what I played of the demo? Because I only played the demo. I didn't buy this game. I did enjoy aspects of it, but fundamentally, this game's been rated 74 on Metacritic. It's been rated lower by Edge, at around about 50 being harsh. But again, I think you benchmark it against games that are released 20 plus years ago, and it's not as good, then you've got questions to be answered here. And one of the things that really annoys me about this game is the fact that you walk around like you've got ice skates on all the time. And you'll fall, if you run too fast, you fall off the map, and there's no explanation for it. It doesn't feel like a Sonic game where it feels fluid a lot of the time. Things stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. The interesting element of it is that there's a bunch of side quests on each stage, which boosts your reputation rank, and that can help with your bonuses in the game. So, it's not. Am I going to rush out and buy this one? No. That's my segment done.
I didn't have too much to add this week. Just like you, Vampire Survivors, again, because of the update, managed to get all of the new achievements in about 20 minutes or so. So I'm back up to 100%. All is right in the world.
New 7 achievements in 20 minutes. It wasn't that bad then compared to the highlight clip I made it out to be.
Well, that's if you go front to back for the whole game. Because, there's now 207 odd achievements, so it does take a while. Like you, It Takes Two, we're right at the edge of that game. Inscryption, like we just mentioned, and I think the only new addition really is just Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy. Again, managed to play some of those harder levels on the first Crash game. I'm really kind of getting to the end of that game now. I don't think I'll 100% it. It's just so damn hard, but it's fun to put on.
You've been cheesing it?
I tried to cheese it, but there was nothing to cheese.
Oh, dear.
But that's it. That was all for me on my hosting week in Las Vegas. Nice.
Well, that wraps up this week's podcast. If I'm not mistaken, we did have to throttle through the end of these segments, but I thought it's been an enjoyable episode, apart from
I think
the dogs making a bit of noise, which you'll cut out, so you don't have to worry about that. Well, cut out a little bit of it. You're going to hear my dogs going a little bit barky. But, considering that most people are watching 3 minutes at the moment, it doesn't matter. But anyway, I've been Nomad from Eternal Backlog. You can follow all of our social media, including TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. We'll continue to make you content.
And I've been Shady Armic.
Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.